This man is always a great chat whenever he comes on this show, and there's lots going on in the world. I would love to pick his brain on his thoughts. I follow him on Twitter, and you can also check out The Right Time with Bomani Jones podcast. He is Bomani Jones. How are you, sir?
I'm good, man. How about you?
I am doing better. What story interests you more than anything else right now that appears to be at the top of a headline stack? Is it what's going on in the NFL, NBA, Rodgers, Tebow, tonight's Lakers, Knicks? I'll give you the omnibus choice. What interests you? What's the top of your mind?
Look, I understand that we've been beating this thing into the ground, but there's nothing more interesting than what's going on with Aaron Rodgers right now.
Right.
There's just no way around it where I think I am one of the few people who is willing to come out in public and say, I understand why they drafted Jordan Love. Like, I don't even think that was necessarily a terrible decision. It was only a terrible decision if you did not realize that as soon as you drafted him, that meant that he would be the starter in 2021. Didn't matter what Aaron Rodgers did in 2020, you were going to have to make that move if you decided to take a quarterback. And they apparently did not understand that this is what it was. And it's like, we know somehow we've never met Aaron Rodgers, but we know him better than they do. And they seem to be really surprised that this is going right now when it was so eminently predictable. And now I have no idea what in the world they're going to do. And I still don't know what Jordan Love looks like. No idea.
You could walk down the street and not be able to say, oh, that's Jordan Love, right? You have no idea.
Let me tell you, a whole lot of people going to walk across Jordan Love in a similar circumstance and be like, really, you went to Utah State? Like I just think that in all of it, and by the way, they don't seem to know anything about him either because he came in the worst offseason ever to be a rookie, and, there's no camp. He didn't dress for any of the games last year. They literally have no idea whether their first-round pick from last year can do anything as of this moment right now. And that's an absurd thing to say as a pro franchise.
It is, because if you think about it, Bomani, at some point, because we're focusing on the not focusing, but we're talking about my colleague at NFL Media Group, Bucky Brooks, certainly threw it out there as a possibility for the Ravens being the first to do it, because at the time, Lamar Jackson didn't have his fifth-year option picked up, that at some point somebody is going to go in the direction of drafting somebody in the first round, and instead of giving them a fifth-year option contract and picking that up and then trying to figure out what the next iteration of a contract looks like, they'll just be like college. They'll just let that player graduate, and they'll start the clock again with a new rookie quarterback and try and win that way again. And instead, we're seeing the Packers say, okay, instead of choosing someone in the first round and then throwing all of our resources in to make sure we win in that first iteration of a contract before we get cap hamstrung with him, we'll just let him sit. It just makes no sense. None of it makes sense on that front at all, Bomani.
Yeah, like I thought that if somebody were going to do kind of that graduation thing, that it would be Jared Goff. And then the Rams gave him a boatload of cash. Like right after, I was like, this guy probably isn't really that good. You could probably get another one of those. They were like, oh, no, we got to give him the money right now. And then 2 years later, we're like, anybody want a quarterback? We've got a quarterback that you guys can have if you would like to have one. And then they shipped him out. But with what they're doing with Rodgers, one, this is probably a rude awakening for a lot of those young guys on the team where they look up and they realize if they'll do it to Aaron Rodgers, they'll do it to you. Like everybody thinks they're different until they realize they're not. And this is the clearest demonstration that you probably will not wind up being different in the grand scheme of it. But I also think the Packers learned something that it's hard to build for tomorrow and today at the same time. Like this is the question I had about San Francisco when they made the trade to get a quarterback this year. That's a win-later move, and you tell me that you have a win-now team. And so the Packers had a win-now team, and they made a win-later move. And now, good luck with later.
Yeah, because the later and the now are absolutely on different tracks of team building. Certainly when you've got a quarterback like Rodgers who – you can't even say was showing diminishing returns. I mean, they made an NFC championship game and won 13 games with a new coach who supposedly was going to be so young and so difficult for him to, if you will, Rodgers, change his spots in a way to attach himself at the hip of this guy. And he did exactly that. And then you drafted the quarterback by moving up to take him. Again, the fact that we're still talking about this a year later because that's the now is kind of stunning to me. It really, really is. It's tough to handle.
Yeah, but see, I thought when they drafted him, if for some reason they had been in the top 10, they would have really, I thought, had a bit of a trick bag of decision, because Rodgers, I did think, in 18 and 19 did not look like the quarterback that we had seen before, and so much of his game is predicated on athleticism. So if you thought that he was declining as an athlete, then maybe you start looking at the future. But every single quarterback who has been taken in the first round since the rookie wage scale came about, the only exception is Paxton Lynch, they all were the starters by year 2. Like, the schedule had been laid out on this, and these were the only people that thought, nah, we'll just keep going until Aaron can't play anymore. Like, Aaron was just going to be like, I'm just going to keep going until they tell me I'm sorry. Yeah, because that's the Aaron Rodgers that we've seen. He's definitely giving you the vibe that that's how he gets down. Oh, he hasn't.
Bomani Jones here on the Rich Eisen Show, host of the Right Time with Bomani Jones podcast. Let's talk about Tebow. What is your 2 cents on the subject of Tebow getting a shot to make the Jacksonville Jaguars from his old college coach?
I just thought it was really stupid of Meyer to make this play. I mean, first of all, the dude's 33 years old, right? Like, I don't see any way that he makes it onto the roster or anything. I am stunned that a man who is Tim Tebow's age and has stepped away from getting the hell knocked out of him for as long as he has now suddenly wants to have it happen again. Like, that part on his end I don't get. But with Urban Meyer and this idea that Tim Tebow, if the idea is that he's going to help impart the culture and he's going to be some like locker room type guy, they only listen to you if you're good. Like, you're not going to come in here out of nowhere, having not been in the league, not having any people in there, and then going to be the one to show these guys how it's done. Like, that's not going to happen. Parcells used to do this a lot, where you would bring guys like Pepper Johnson and Maurice Carthon, and, they would be the guys to impart the Parcells way. But they were still, like, when he would do that, they were still, like, NFL players. They're still halfway decent guys. Tebow ain't even no NFL player, which means he's going to look like the snitch. Like, why are you here? Oh, because I'm friends with the coach. He's like a dad to me. Okay, I'm not going to do anything around you.
Yeah, I remember when Parcells was with the Jets at the end of his run before the Cowboys. He brought in Keith Byers, Dave Meggett, and they were players. They were important players on that team. I think Pepper might even been on the Jets. Right.
This dude couldn't play when he was playing.
What do you make, however, of the sense that people are saying that this is the latest affront to Kaepernick, that Tebow's getting a shot and Kaepernick did not get one, obviously, with the exception of that one thrown-together tryout by the NFL 2 years ago that I'm still wondering what the hell happened to make it happen and then when it happened. What's your 2 cents on that subject?
Yeah, I think that this one is a separate discussion for what happened with Kaepernick. Like, doing that in this case means that we could do it with literally every signing that we have. And so, like, when Blake Bortles or Blaine Gabbert winds up getting another job, yeah, okay, we can go ahead and talk about this. This is about Urban Meyer bringing on his buddy. I don't think that this is really tied to anything, like, hugely macro beyond that. It's Urban Meyer bringing in his buddy. And, again, I don't think that he's going to get anywhere near the actual roster. Like, I think it's going to be a moot point by the time the season starts. I'm just blown away that he would even do this in the first place. And from the sounds of it, people in the organization were not on board with this. And he still did it anyway. Like, I think this is going to be a learning experience for him that, like, this just isn't college in the way that you want it to be.
So you don't think, the fact that they could get Tebow the reps and OTAs and stuff, and he's probably right now while we're talking, probably in front of some jugs machine catching his 19,000th football of the day, and he's going to do his best to make this happen. You don't think that this could wind up being one of those, my gosh, if he had only done this 10 years ago type stories, Bomani Jones? You don't feel that?
No, because I don't think he was that athletic in the first place. Like, I thought he was athletic for a college quarterback. Like, he definitely demonstrated that level of athleticism there. But I don't think that he demonstrated an NFL level of athleticism. Like, he's not fast. He could move, but I think he's like a 4'8" guy or something like that. And he does not have a great deal of practice at anything called blocking or anything like that. And so maybe at 23, there was a possibility that we could have looked at it this way. Him jumping in the league at 33 and being a tight end, like, I understand that Kyle Pitts is an exceptional case in terms of athleticism, but that's what tight ends look like these days. Those are the things that tight ends can do now. I've seen nothing from Tim Tebow to indicate that he could do those things.
Bomani Jones here on the Rich Eisen Show, The Right Time with Bomani Jones podcast. Get it where all podcasts can be acquired. Big game tonight, I think, between the Lakers and the Knicks. It's not as if the Lakers don't have a spotlight on them all the time, but now the national spotlight with Turner coming in and the Knicks having the same record, and this is a terrific barometer test, again, for the Knicks. They seem to be having one every single night. LeBron may or may not be back for this. You know, LeBron said, I'm not going to be 100% anymore. He's fearful, so on and so forth, with the play-in tournament that LeBron has criticized, staring the Lakers directly in the face with meeting with Steph Curry, it appears, and how hot he is. What do you make of the Lakers' current situation and future over the next couple of months, should it happen, Bomani Jones?
Well, I don't think they're going to win a championship, and I think LeBron was probably being a wee bit dramatic when he said the thing about not being 100% ever again in his career, but he's also in his 18th year in the NBA, and his game is still in large part a running and jumping game. So with a high ankle sprain, which is one of those things kind of like turf toe where we talk about it all the time, but nobody understands exactly what it is. And the high ankle sprain is how people roll their ankles normally, is if you roll it the other way. You realize how much force you have to put down on your ankle to even have a high ankle sprain, because your leg is built to stop something like that from happening. I don't think he's going to wind up being at 100% this year. I do think that they're going to wind up being in the play-in tournament. I think they'll get out of that play-in tournament, but I think that they are... Unless something pretty drastic changes pretty quickly, I just have a hard time seeing them going deep into the playoffs this year. That said, if I am Adam Silver, I'm sending in Earl Hebner or whoever else I need to make sure the Lakers do make it into the playoffs. This play-in tournament is looking like a boon for them right now because there's going to be interesting teams in it, but if it results in the Lakers not making the playoffs, it's the worst thing they ever did.
I think we're learning over the last couple of weeks and months, what this looks like without LeBron. The Lakers look like without LeBron, and what the league looks like without LeBron. I guess you be careful what you wish for if you want LeBron finally gone. Yeah,
so on one hand, I do think that the league is they're suffering from some of the effects of leaning so heavily into LeBron because there's not that much left that's interesting about LeBron after all these years, right? He's not going to catch Jordan in the eyes of people. You can't call him a choker or any of that stuff anymore. Now he's one of very many excellent players who are in the NBA. He's still right near the top, but that's still not really compelling, I don't think, anymore to people at this point. However, those are still the Lakers. And so people who don't care that much about basketball will see the Lakers are on television and still watch. If they mess around and get one of those finals where they've got something like Utah and Milwaukee, which might be highly entertaining, and 15 of us are going to know about it, and we're going to talk about, man, one of the greatest series ever. I sure wish people watched it.
Who's your MVP?
Oh, Jokic. It's not even close. I can't believe that people have tried to make this into something compelling, which I think is just largely because they don't think that dude looks like somebody who should be, really excellent at basketball, but he's one of the most amazing players to watch that I can think of. And when you go look at the advanced numbers, this is borderline top 10 all-time season that he is putting up. It's him, and if Embiid had stayed healthy, maybe we'd be talking about him in this discussion, but it is Jokic, and I don't even care who number 2 is.
So you're saying he looks like Big Country, plays like Magic? Is that what you're basically saying, Bomani?
Yeah, dude, it's so wild because he does. I'm surprised that he's been in the league this long and hadn't gotten a better haircut. One of my favorite things about the NBA is all these guys who come from Europe and their indoctrination into American culture is actually NBA culture. So, you get some guy out of nowhere, you know what I'm saying? You're like, oh, wait, when did that happen? Oh, okay, you learned how to speak English in the NBA. And normally somebody would have taken him to the right barbershop by now, and he'd have had some lines in his head or something else like that. George Mearson was walking around here dressed like De La Soul when he was in the league, and Jokic is still out here with that haircut. I don't get it.
De La Soul is maybe the best reference we've had on this show in quite some time. But, maybe the fact that Jokic is not being widely, overarchingly, as your point, I guess, by what you made, considered the MVP as a lock is because the Nuggets and he were an afterthought until, Jamal Murray went down. Then it's like, oh, okay. The fact that you're actually taking a step forward instead of being totally done for the year, fork stuck, that might be it. But and then you look at, obviously, Embiid for the Sixers. I know he went down for a bit, but the Sixers may wind up with the best record in the East. if not writ large. So maybe that's what it is about the Joker, you know?
And there's the mountain time zone. Like,
That's true.
there's things that happen specifically in the mountain time zone. We keep up with the teams on the Pacific. For whatever reason, the mountain time zone could be a place where you can quickly go to disappear, because it's strange to me, they went to the Western Conference Finals last year.
Yes,
like, it wasn't simply that the Clippers blew that series. The Nuggets also came and they took it from them. And so I expected people to be a bit more interested. I think the playoffs will be a good barometer for people to see what they have, because what has happened since Murray has gone out, is something I think is really interesting as an NBA story that is being under-discussed, which is the emergence of future superstar Michael Porter Jr. And when Murray went out, my question was going to be, are they going to be about the same without him, simply because this means that Porter is going to have to do more? And he has had to do more, and he has done more. And you got a 6'10" dude that's shooting like 55% from the floor and like 45% from three. Like, the Nuggets are coming. Like, people need to start getting ready, because I think they're going to be good for a long time.
Bomani, always appreciate the chat. Thanks for being able to make it today, and I look forward to the next time already. Thanks again.
No problem, man. You guys be good.
You got it. The Right Time with Bomani Jones podcast. Get it where all podcasts can be acquired. That's Bomani Jones here on the Rich Eisen Show. De La Soul is a fun, like George Murasan looked like De La Soul when he was playing. Like, that was funny. Hey, you watched all the way to the end. Thanks for that. Watch more right here.